Five. Try not to bump the table too much because it will shake that camera quite a bit. Of course, you'll probably see it if you're watching.
Right. Alright guys, give us a moment please. We're getting things online in a little less of a clean way this week.
Yeah, Nate's not here, so
We have to make do.
we have phones filming other phones, and
It's a whole thing. Okay.
just get Facebook going, and then we'll get started here.
Is that running? You guys seeing Facebook pop up? It didn't automatically do it, so we're just gonna go.
God.
Come on.
But,
This is the last live stream of the year.
yeah,
This is the
Uh,
last stream of the year. Glad we're finishing it so great.
it's the last of a lot of things of the year. God, Nate's still saying to reboot the computer.
Go live now. Okay, I think we're live.
You guys want to check?
Someone confirm for me?
Thanks for hanging in there, Instagram. Yeah.
Showing up in mine. Great.
All right, everybody. All right. Well, welcome to live stream number 82.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm getting
And
through
the last of 2021. So the year is practically over. Thank you for joining us this year. If you've been consistently with us, we appreciate it. It's been a really great year for the 034 live chat stream Q&A thing that we don't have a name for. I still think we need to call it like the 034 Magnum session or something. You know, like Platinum Hour. You know, it needs like
That's a big pitch.
Sapphire 60. The Sapphire 60.
Mm.
I'm starting to sound like
I
strip
feel like that's a
clubs.
club. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's an after hours kind of thing.
But anyways, as always, I'm Javon Shadzi, CEO of 034 Motorsport, and this week our marketing manager, Nick Mercadante, is joining me. Because Nate is frozen in a block of ice in Maine right now.
Tends to happen.
Yeah. We're going to spend some time talking about our new TCU tunes. This has been an amazing week for 034 Motorsport tuning and calibrations. And we've been extremely pleased to offer these products and thrilled to see your guys' responses. And almost immediately, world record times are being produced by customer cars because shop times don't matter. But our customers are running almost the same times as we are on even less prepared cars. So ironically, I think there was some deniers or doubters, but one customer ran a 1099 with just his back seats out and his spare tire out, and like all season tires,
Old all-season tires.
cold all-season tires on the street.
Close road.
The closed street in Mexico.
Yeah.
Actually, Mexico's too mainstream now. I think it's like Costa Rica.
Costa Rica,
That's
that's
the
nice.
next new spot. Yeah.
Puerto Rico.
Yeah, Puerto Rico's good too. Caribbean, but you run out of room pretty quick. Yeah, the hurricanes.
Apparently, we should call this the
The Crackle Hour. It just might have to be named that.
Sometimes it goes that way.
Yeah. Q&A session. Ask us anything. We take a no BS approach to answering questions, and we try to be as accurate as possible. And if you're mad at us or if we've ever hurt you in any way, please let us know. We're here to solve problems and address concerns, and we have done that many times.
Absolutely.
Live on the air. So we want to be the best we can be, and that means addressing any and all concerns that come If you're wrong, you know, we're gonna tell you. But if you're right, we're gonna do everything we can to fix it. So
Absolutely.
All right, so let's jump into some questions. Someone's asking for B9 platform high pressure fuel pump. Is there a good reliable system out there? And does 034 plan on working on one? I'm not really aware of anything that's currently being offered or shipped. I've seen some references to possible products. APR had something for a while that I believe they've since pulled and shelved. We are working on something. It's not going to be real quick. I'm just going to throw this out there that, you know, I would hope to be able to release something the second half of next year. So Q3 or Q4 of next year. But these type of high pressure fuel pump products, you can't just make them anywhere. You can't just make them in any factory. You can't just have like the machine shop down the road make them. These are aerospace, you know, the finest tolerances pretty much of any automotive product made. And then there's these aerospace type coatings that are also, you can't go to, you know, your local powder coating shop and get those. So we are working with a manufacturer. We are releasing a 2.0T pump, high pressure fuel pump, soon. So we are in the market and business of producing these pumps, and something's coming soon. Did something happen?
Yeah, so apparently Facebook thinks we're doing too much things at one time, so it's decided to restrict us right now. So it's paused our live stream. You can't use this feature right now. We limit how often you can post, comment, or do other things.
Jesus Christ.
Jesus fucking Christ, of course.
Nate.
Nate, help. We're still live on Instagram, so that's something.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We may want to just bail on Facebook.
Yeah.
We have 51 viewers on Instagram, so.
Hey, Instagram's pretty good. Thank you guys for sticking along. We can keep talking to you while
Have we posted a link on our Facebook page saying
Yes.
We can
go to Instagram?
We can definitely do that right now.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you,
All right.
Facebook, for sucking.
Will there ever be a 500 horsepower EA5 flash at home option for the CREC motor? And if so, can we make that happen by tomorrow? It's definitely not going to happen by tomorrow because
Need a little
it's
time.
2 days after Christmas. But we are working on that. We are making progress on that. It's not currently our top priority. You know, we are putting our priority towards more popular B8 applications as well as B9. Those I would say are our most top upfront priorities, simply because there are literally tens of thousands of customers wanting those products and purchasing them from us. I mean, we've sold an insane number of B9 3.0 T tunes since we've released it only 4 or 5 months ago. So CREC is going to be a much smaller group of customers, you know, maybe hundreds. But it's a great motor, it's a great setup, and it's unfortunate that Audi changed so much about it. But some of those changes result in it being better and having some advantages. So that is something we're working on. It won't happen tomorrow, but you know, definitely next year, which is just a few days away, we plan on bringing something like that to market. I know I'm really interested in getting a Q7, like a 2018 Q7 3.0T, and which is the supercharged motor, and so you know we're going to plan on doing a program around that as well. So I mean, how cool would that be? A 7-seater, 500 horsepower SUV, you know,
Wouldn't be bad.
lowered on static springs with sway bars, handles as good as most sports cars and faster than many sports cars. So yeah, we have a lot of cool stuff. I never thought we'd be doing this much with SUVs, frankly.
It's a big market, as we've learned.
It's huge, yeah. I mean, it was like 5 years ago, Audi started selling more SUVs than sedans. So it makes sense, and they're really good cars. So
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and restart the computer per Nate's suggestion.
Yeah.
We'll just avoid the
Do that.
tune stuff for now.
any 4.0T hardware software decisions soon? We are working on some 4.0T products, including tuning is on the horizon. I know we're working on a 4.0T like for an S6, like an intake with high flow turbo inlets. anything else specific? We were
Motor
looking.
mounts.
The motor mounts will be
In production.
releasing soon. They're in production. We have motorsport motor mounts coming.
We have a lot of stuff for that platform already, though, in our hardware.
We have a ton. I mean, if you want to make
bars, control arm
if you want
kits,
to make your S6 handle great, you know, there's no better place to go. You know, on the tuning fronts, Dyno Spectrum's very popular already, so you know, we're not sure how much opportunity. If we had done something 5 years ago, it would have been smart, but we didn't. We chose to focus on B8, which can't complain.
yeah, every company has a very set amount of resources they can use to develop something, and you know, if we develop on one thing, it means we have to then not develop somewhere else for a
Yeah.
certain period of time.
Yeah,
so
you
we
have
have to
to-
evaluate the opportunity.
You have to make your choices, you know. If 7 people invite you over for Christmas, you got to decide. You know, you can only go to really one place at a time. So.
Exactly.
And you can go to all 7, but then you might piss everyone off. So, you know, how happy do you want to make how many people? And that's really kind of what we're always asking ourselves is, you know, what's the most we can do with the most platforms, and what, you know, when we go into a platform, we want to really create happy customers, and we want to really rock the industry, you know, and come out with innovative products that do things better than anyone has seen, and you can't do that and spread yourself too thin. So,
Absolutely.
DAZA turbo inlet. We do have a gorgeous cast aluminum DAZA turbo inlet that's 4 inches. They are currently on our way to us from the foundry that's casting them and machining them, and we're looking at about a month out right now, hopefully sooner, but it will be about a month. If you're in the market for a DAZA inlet, please wait till we release ours. We're going to offer it at a industry rocking price. We're late to the game on this one, and so we have chosen to volume over profit, and we're going to make up for it in volume by offering a very low price on an extremely high quality product. We can do this with a casting like this because castings, the per unit cost of the castings is quite cheap. It's the tooling and the initial development that's so expensive. So if we can sell a lot of units at a lower price, we can generate a lot of profit to pay off that tooling cost, and we can do it with volume. Where when you just have a high per unit cost, you're stuck. You can't go cheap on that. So once we pay off the initial tooling, then we're in good shape. But a lot of companies keep the price high to pay off the tooling, and it's just a volume and you know, profit margin question at that point. So
Okay, I believe we should be back live on Facebook, and I think we'll just go ahead and refrain from commenting on Facebook.
I will say
we'll
if
just leave that as it is.
yeah, if you're watching on Facebook, I recommend switching over to Instagram because we don't know. Facebook's a sinking ship when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Generally, yeah.
And the Instagram seems to be rock stable, although it's no longer on your phone. I don't know what that means.
I had to.
Okay.
We're doing okay. It's still doing well.
Um,
Yeah, we're back live on Facebook. So thank you guys for being patient there. We had some technical difficulties.
Yeah. If you were on Facebook, we just announced $1 million giveaway. I'm sorry if you missed it.
Yeah.
But
I heard you won that giveaway.
no, that was bad.
Well, you want to dive into the tunes while we have Facebook running?
Yeah, sure. Let's do that. All right, so we're gonna take a minute while you're here, and I know there's a lot of people have questions about this, and then we can this will be recorded and we can post this. There's been a lot of questions about our new tunes. We happen to release 2 at the same time, which is B8 AL551, which is a stage 1 tune for the B8. It's a stage 1 feature-filled performance tune for B8. And then on B9, we had already stage 1 for AL552 out, which we include for free with our B9 stage 1 tune. Some people are referring to this as a patch. Our stage 1 TCU tune does not have any features. So it did augment or change the way the transmission shifts. It's simply raised the torque limits between the TCU and ECU so that the ECU can produce the most power possible, and the ECU and TCU work in tandem or holistically to manage the power that the engine produces. And so our stage one was simply a safety and torque limiting fix to allow the ECU and TCU to work together, which is what they do stock. We did not have any features in that file, and so we have released a stage 2 AL552 tune that's filled with features that make the transmission shift in a much higher performance way, and also makes the car faster. And we'll talk about why. And then there's a lot of talk about advanced launch control. Obviously, we rocked the industry with B8 DSG, and so everyone's been asking for ZF8 advanced launch control ALC. And so we finally released that for B8 AL551. We have not released it for B9 yet, although some box codes.
B9, no. Some box codes for B8 are rolling out actively.
Okay.
However,
All right, so we're rolling out B8.
Yeah.
The more popular ones we started there, and we will continue to update you on if your file is available throughout the next few weeks. Things obviously slow down because of Christmas and the holidays.
Yeah.
B9, we have not released ALC yet, but we will. We're working on it. Stay tuned. But again, ALC is a free upgrade for anyone who owns our TCU tuning already. And so if you're waiting until we release ALC, there's no reason for that. You can still have the fastest tune on the market, and then you will get ALC for free when it's released. If you want to wait until we release it, you could, I guess. You'll just miss out on a month or two of a lot of fun, and hurting, other people's feelings.
I think it's happening again.
Yeah.
Facebook, why do you do this to me?
Which is why I told people to go to Instagram. Looks like Facebook died again. So if you jumped over from Facebook, congratulations.
Fantastic.
All right. So let's just go through the features. First, we will talk about AL551 ZF8, which is for the B8 C7 platform. Again, these are for B8 and C7 vehicles with the AL551 transmission, which is a ZF8 automatic transmission. It's not the DSG. We've had DSG tuning for a while, but neither of these cars came with it. Again, it's our stage one. It's a feature-filled stage one, and it works with all ECU stages. Obviously, you can flash it on home just like all of our other tuning. We've increased the rev limiter shift point to 7,200. I believe stock's like 6,400 or something like that. 63, yeah. So much higher shifting. Improved shift speeds, so the transmission does shift faster, or the shift events last shorter. We've improved the torque management during the shifts. So if you know how an automatic transmission shifts, the power does not go to zero, it's not binary, and then come back up. So there's a blending of power. The power is reduced in one gear, and then the shift happens, and then the power is brought on in the next gear. So there's a transition period. And so we can control the power delivered during that the shifting transition period. And so we're able to produce more power and acceleration throughout the shifting event. So that means the acceleration that the car does during the shift is more with our stage 1 tune. We've optimized the launch control. It's compatible with or without advanced launch control. People are setting new records and going faster than ever with this new stage 1 tune.
The big thing with this is that it's compatible with CREC engines as well. Our B8 AL551 TCU tuning is totally compatible with CREC engines as well. Since ECU tuning contains advanced launch control, you won't have that on those cars, but you will have non-advanced launch control, which is still very optimized from the factory settings.
And then, as we mentioned, this file does have advanced launch control. Nick, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the thing with advanced launch control on the ZF8 equipped cars, such as the AL551 transmission itself, It's a little different than the DSG or manual transmission cars, just due to the nature of a torque converter. Since you can't fully decouple everything, it will always be loading up the system in one way, shape, or form, and there is only so high that you can stall the torque converter out at. It's the maximum amount that your engine can create torque for. So with advanced launch control turned off, it will go as far as it physically can at the torque that you're outputting. So that can change between different stage tunes, from anywhere from 2800 all the way to 3600, depending on if you're stage 1 on 91 or if you're stage 2 plus with E40, water blower, the whole 9 yards. Advanced launch control needs to be thought of a little differently for the ZF8s, as it effectively is a traction saver, or it reduces your power off of launch control, as it allows you to set a launch RPM not higher than your maximum stall, but call out different launch RPMs lower in the stall. So say you don't have as much traction on the road that you're at and you want to target a lower launch RPM. That's where advanced launch control comes into play for ZF8 cars. In neutral, you can go all the way to the moon and whatever RPM that you like for your friends in a parking lot to have a good time. Yeah, absolutely. But in an actual launch event, you cannot exceed the maximum stall RPM, which will vary based on your torque output, but you can set it to lower amounts so that you can then limit wheel spin and make sure you put down as much power as possible.
Yeah, or if depending on how many of your groceries you want to fly all over the back of the car.
Right. How much you want your kid to spill their drink through your back seat. Yeah. You can limit that. Yeah.
How far up your kid's nose you want their sippy cup.
Right. Exactly. The other features for advanced launch that are obviously useful for everyone is the 100% cooling fans and auxiliary supercharger, coolant pump running at 100% when beneath 10 kilometers an hour. So this allows your supercharger to cool down and the IATs drop and recover as fast as possible. Say you're in the staging lanes before a race or at the drag strip or something like that. It allows you to recover the temps as fast as possible. We've got a whole video walking through how to use this on our YouTube channel, so feel free to head on over there. It should be linked in our product page shortly as well, so you can walk through how to use all of this. That's the bulk of it. There is 2 main modes for advanced launch. There's a soft cut that is catalyst safe, and then there's an ignition cut form that is for test pipe use and racing use only. One of them will produce flames, the ignition cut, on some cars, whereas the soft cut will be safe for stock alloy converters or anything of the sort.
Yeah, so we released a video last week which got a ton of views of a B8 SP5 shooting flames. It was interesting. It was somewhat controversial. I'd say most people loved it. It really angered some people, but it shouldn't anger anybody. You don't have to use it like that. You don't have to sit there for 5 minutes going rum pop pop rum pop pop pop. What it does is helps you launch quickly by doing an ignition cut 2-step style launch. Both of our launch strategies are extremely fast. The soft cut and the ignition cut style both work very well. I don't know if one is faster than the other. They're just 2 different ways to get a very fast 60-foot time and to deliver power off the line with just the right amount of wheel spin. But it's you don't have to sit there doing that, and you don't even ever have to use the ignition style. But there are some people that just love this and can't get enough of it. And we did this with our S4.0T at SEMA, and people lost their minds, and it was one of the most popular things on the SEMA drive out events. So don't hate us for doing it. Race cars do it. Rally cars do it. Porsche GT3 RSs do it. It's a legitimate way of launching. There's nothing wrong with flames coming out the tailpipe. Priuses don't do it. Minivans do not do it. But really fast, legitimate race cars do this. So I agree that sometimes there's too much focus on pops and bangs and 2-step fireball stuff, but it's actually a legit thing. So.
And our goal is to always offer what the customer wants, and there are as many people that want this as there are that don't want this, which is why we allow
I think
you.
there's way more people that want it.
Yes,
I'd say 90% of people just freaking love it. Right. And then there's 2% of get off my lawn cranky old guys that maybe even are 25. And actually, it's kind of become this cool new like I'm better than you, superior thing to hate it, you know, and it's like, okay, well, you know, we get you're so highbrow because you don't like fireballs, but, you know, most people love this feature,
Yeah.
and frankly, I think it's pretty cool too. I'm not going to sit there in my neighborhood doing it for 30 minutes, you know.
Yeah, at like 10 p.m.
I'm not going to do it for very long at the track either, but if I'm drag racing and I'm going to launch and I kick out a few fireballs before I cut a 1.5 60 foot, why not? It's freaking cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, but we also have the ability to turn it off if you don't want to utilize it.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing with us, is that we're going to offer the features that everyone wants and give the user the adjustability to use it how they want.
Yeah, you know, top fuel dragsters do it.
Exactly.
They put out like 10, 15 foot long flames, like flamethrowers. These aren't just little like pops. These are so. All right, so that's B8 AL551 ZF8 stage 1 tuning. Again, stage 1, full featured, high performance tune.
Yeah, usable on all ECU stages.
And it's stage 1 because it's the first stage TCU file that we released. We did not have a stage 1 patch for our B8 ZF8 tune. It didn't need it. We didn't feel the need to include that. For B9 we did. So now we're going to move on to our B9 AL552 ZF8 TCU tune, which this is for all B9 S4, S5, SP5 vehicles. So this is an optional upgrade from our Stage 1 TCU tune. Again, Stage 1 is included with Stage 1 ECU. And our Stage 1 TCU is this patch, as people are calling it, which again makes the ECU and TCU manage torque in tandem, which is how the B9 system works.
Yeah. To spend a little time clarifying on that a little bit, a lot of times we get asked, why did we make a Stage 1 TCU tune that has no features? Well, when we released that TCU tune, no one mandated a TCU tune.
Yeah, it was, the feature was, we're allowing more torque to be produced in a safe manner. The problem is, before we did that, and we've talked about this before, but before we did our Stage 1 patch, everyone else was simply just fudging the TCU value in the ECU, and the TCU was no longer involved in how much torque the ECU was producing. It was cut out of the equation. Now the TCU is managing all things about the transmission, and it has its own sensors, data, and models that control how it shifts and how much power and torque the engine should be producing based on all those variables. And so we wanted to keep the TCU involved in those decisions with the ECU. So we were the first ones to create this patch. It was a big feature, and it still is, but other tuners either doubled down and said you don't have to do it, which is wrong, or they've started doing it themselves.
Some have actually begun to advertise it as a feature that you don't need a TCU tune.
So like a lot of things 034, we do it first, and then some people fight it, other people copy it, and here we are. So in hindsight, we probably should have called it Stage 0. And we kind of fucked that up. So now we're having to explain, the difference between Stage 1 and Stage 2. I think if we could do it over again, Stage 0 would be this more patch style, and then Stage 1 is adding features, that actually augment the performance of the shifting. And that is true. Our Stage 1 doesn't really change the way the car shifts. It changes the power and torque management.
Not significantly. Obviously, there's stuff that the transmission is doing to accommodate for the higher torque, but
it's all involved in producing more power. It's not feeling any different than the stock, shifting. So we changed all that with Stage 2, again, which is an optional upgrade. It's $650 for all new customers. If you purchased our B9 Stage 1 tuning before we released this, which would have been
December 22nd.
December 22nd, then it's $450 for you. So we're giving you a $200 credit. You simply have to email contact@034 Motorsport, and you will be sent a quote that you can check out through to buy it at the lower price. We've sold so many upgrades, which has been awesome. Hundreds of our existing customers have already taken us up on this deal. And I'd say there's no reason for us to do it, but we wanted to thank the customers who bought in with us, who trusted us, and supported us initially with this release. we want it to benefit you guys, so thank you for the support. But it's $650 for all new customers.
Yeah.
But yes, if you bought before 12/22, be sure to email us and get the deal. So as far as features go, it's continuing to improve the torque management of the ECU to allow the ECU to produce more torque and more optimal torque. We are limiting maximum torque. We could actually make more torque in some spots, but we are limiting it simply due to the fact that we don't want to damage any motors. And there's also, the fuel pump system doesn't flow that very much at lower RPMs. Again, faster shift speeds in all driving modes. So in comfort mode, drive mode, it's optimized for enhanced acceleration and comfort, which means that the shift is fast but not as abrupt. So if your girlfriend's about to take a sip of her water, it's not going to send the whole cup right down her throat. In dynamic mode, however, it's the fastest overall shifting and best acceleration performance. The shifts are going to be more abrupt. You're going to feel them more, and they're not going to be as refined and unnoticeable. But the goal is to produce the fastest shift while not like breaking your neck or destroying the earth. Optimized water throttle shift points per octane calibration. So this has been somewhat questioned and a little confusing to people. Sometimes the best things are not as intuitive. And so believe it or not, revving out to the maximum RPM in every gear is not the fastest way to go in the quarter mile or to accelerate. So what we did is we carefully analyzed the torque and acceleration curves of the vehicle in every gear, in every octane that we offer. And so we produced TCU calibrations that allow optimal shifting points per gear per fuel octane. That means that in some gears, in some octanes, the ECU is going to shift at 5,300 RPM, not 7,200 RPM. It's going to short shift, and this seems counterintuitive, but it's actually faster because what we're doing is we're allowing the vehicle to accelerate using engine power to the maximum point of acceleration, and when that acceleration rate tapers off, we're going to shift very quickly into the next gear and go back to a faster acceleration rate that you would have if you had stayed in that gear. This is what people who know how to go fast in the quarter mile do naturally. I've been doing this for years in manual cars. I don't tack out in every gear. You develop this sense of that the rate of acceleration just slowed down. I'm going to shift, and so you begin to feel that. And I'm not aware of another tuner that's doing that currently. Again, just wait a few months and everybody will be offering this. But with this shifting strategy, we did run a substantially faster world record time. I mean, we basically dropped to the world record a half a second. Just using this shifting strategy along with increased power and torque.
The main variations are going to be between our pump gas and our race gas ethanol files. The pump gas files, because there's less torque in the meat of the power band, it runs out to redline at 6,500, not further than 6,500 because the turbo just falls off and chokes out. That's a stock turbo issue. But on our ethanol and race gas files, it'll be shifting earlier, sometimes at 59, sometimes at 61. It depends what gear, to better put it in the peak of its torque ability and the overall acceleration curve.
And Nick's right. This is mostly an issue with the stock turbo. And it's not a real issue, but it's a dynamic with the stock turbo that the stock turbo is very good at producing tremendous power up to about 5,000 RPM. Above 5,000 RPM, certainly above 6,000 RPM, the turbo is finished, and it's not able to produce any more power or torque than it did up to that point. So at that point, it's time to shift. The sweet spot of the stock turbo is, say, 3,000 to 5,000 RPM. That's where you get the meat of the power and acceleration. Now, in the future, when we release stage 3 tuning, these shift points and strategies will totally change. A bigger turbo that can produce and hold boost all the way up to redline, that motor will continue to accelerate all the way to redline. it should or could. It will have a chance to do that, but the stock turbo, there's just no point. So.
Exactly.
And this is a normal thing for stock turbos. Audi doesn't really produce engines to make peak power at redline unless you're talking about like an R8 or the RS5, which had the same motor. Those are very sports car like power bands where the higher you rev it, the faster it goes.
Right.
But for the average person who's going around town at 2,500, 3,000 RPM, they want to squeeze the throttle, Audi's going to size the turbo accordingly. And a lot of people are afraid to rev their engines past 4,000 RPM. I've talked to so many people who are like, "You can do that?" And it's like, yeah, you can tack out in every gear all day long. Like, that's what these motors are designed to do. All right. Fuel pump. Pump fuel shifts at about 6,500 RPM, and then ethanol race gas is going to shift depending on the gear at lower RPMs. And then if you want to go to redline, you can. You just need to be in manual mode. Again, these automatic shift points are in the automatic driving mode. But if you want to shift manually, you can. The TCU is going to allow you to do whatever you want. It's going to act much more like a manual transmission. And then there's optimizations in the difference in torque curves between fuel maps. Again, the torque curve is going to look much different on 91 versus E85. And that's because 91 octane fuel is much more prone to detonation. The place that a motor detonates the most is at peak volumetric efficiency, which is the highest cylinder pressures, and that's almost always at the torque peak, which is a much lower RPM. Mm-hmm. So on 91, we have to bring the torque way down. On 85, which is very knocker detonation resistance, we can go to the limits of what we believe that the motor can hold, right, and the fuel system can do. And then there's a kickdown switch in manual mode is disabled, which I really like that.
Yeah.
I've learned to just never go into the kickdown switch, but if you want to just stab the throttle, you can now, and not have to worry about it. Nick, do you want to talk about AMAX shifting improvement?
Yeah, absolutely. So AMAX shifting, very literally, is maximum acceleration shifting strategy. So from the factory, this exists on the S4 and S5 through first and fourth gear shifts on launch control. Most people experience this as a surge on the shift event itself, as the transmission effectively throws itself into the next gear and has the torque converter take up the slack and keep as much torque application through the gear shift as possible for the maximum acceleration. We optimize AMAX to a point as well, not only increasing the gears that it's active in, so we add it on the 4, 5, and 5, 6 gear shift to get you through the quarter mile fully, because on the factory one you can't.
Right.
But we also then add it to SQ5 TCUs, which didn't have it from the factory at all. So that's a huge gain in performance. I picked up a half a second to 0 to 60 just by adding AMAX.
That's great. That's insane.
And obviously we've done those shift point optimizations in AMAX mode as well, based on the octane TCU map that you're running. So if you're on ethanol, it's going to shift shorter. If you're on pump gas, it's going to shift higher. That is a big piece that we've seen pick up a lot of time in our drag runs. We've seen customers pick up 2 to 3 tenths alone in the quarter mile just from the extended and optimized shift points.
Yeah, and AMAX is a gift, from Audi, and we're not the first to use it to make the car go faster, but we are using it, and it's a nice feature.
Yeah.
Someone's asking, any limitation on that $200 off deal? Yes, when the last manual transmission car rolls off the line, we will cancel it. So that could be any day now. You're going to definitely want to jump in on this, but no, seriously, there isn't. If you've ever purchased the tune before 12/22, just simply email us proof of your purchase, and if you don't have proof of purchase, just email us. You'll be in our system, and we'll offer you the deal. If you're saving up for it, I understand. If you're waiting for other reasons, I wouldn't. Just go on our customer 034 Motorsport customer group, and on Christmas I was reading all these amazing posts from people just gushing about how much fun they're having with this new tune. So can't ask for a better Christmas gift than that.
No kidding.
But no, jump on it sooner than later. But yes, there's no expiration.
It's important to note that while this is a Stage 2 TCU tune for AL552, you don't need to be running Stage 2 ECU to get the most out of this model. I'm actually running it on Stage 1 ECU and loving it completely. So
yeah,
it's very applicable for added power and acceleration on Stage 1 and Stage 2 ECU too.
Yeah, Stage 2 is referring to the stage of TCU tuning, not the ECU tuning. So, and then when you run Stage 2, let's say you're running Stage 2 TCU 91 octane, you just need to make sure you're running the corresponding 91 octane ECU file, which has nothing to do with the TCU, which just has to do with the octane you're running. Any other questions, drop them in, or as always, shoot us an email, contact@034motorsport.com. We're always here to help. All right, we'll move on from that. Thank you for listening, and thank you all for the support.
Much appreciated.
Someone's asking, say I bought the AL552 tuning on Thursday, then when will I see it in my tuning account? I would guess probably today, because we were closed Friday, which was Christmas. We're closed on the weekends, so the team is getting back up and running today. If you don't see it today, then tomorrow. But typically we quote 2 or 3 business days, and you're basically less than 1 business day right now. So
someone asked real quick to explain what the kickdown switch is on the accelerator pedal.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's
on
toe.
Yeah, exactly. On automatic cars, so ZF8 or DSG cars, at the bottom of the accelerator pedal travel, there's a little button that you can kick a little bit further called the kickdown switch.
I mean, all automatic cars have this.
Yes, and what that does is, you're going from maximum acceleration without downshifting to a forced downshift to the most optimal gear, so what the car thinks. So in normal operations, if you were to floor it and get to that kickdown switch, once you push through that, it's going to downshift to some gear. Now in manual mode, maybe you don't want to downshift to a next gear, so you're an autocross course or track day, and you know what gear you want to be in. We disable that kickdown switch when your shifter's in manual mode and you're using paddles or the shifter itself. So that is for you to have the most control. Now when it's in drive or sport, it's still going to be active, and it's oftentimes recommended if you're just romping on it on the highway and getting into it. It's going to put it in the best gear possible quickly. But in a true performance application where you want to be in the gear you're in, we disable that for you in manual mode.
Yeah. All right, we got more questions rolling in here. Someone wants to get to this one. Hey guys, I don't know how you guys feel about the B8.5 RS5 platform, but it would mean a lot if you could give any insight on a build that could give it more power, and if you guys are willing to try creating a tune or something for it. Yeah, absolutely. We've been talking openly about RS5. We do have an RS5 in-house that we're using for development.
This is B8.5, so this is the V8.
Oh, the B8.5.
Yeah, that's tough. The
No.
4.2 V8.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, I just saw RS5.
Shows how excited we are for it.
Yeah. We won't be doing anything for B8 RS5s. I think JHM is pretty much the only tuner on earth who's done anything with them. And I guess you probably already know about what they've done or what they're doing. Generally, we work closely with JHM and I like their products, and I know Jason personally, and I know he's takes everything he does over there at JHM very seriously. He's very similar to me in the fact that he cares deeply about releasing great products and won't be happy with releasing anything that's not the best it can be. So I would recommend talking to them. We really don't have a lot of products for that car.
Tons of drivetrain.
Oh yeah. No, we have our standard drivetrain components and inserts and things like that. But we don't have our normal, we don't have sway bars, we don't have springs.
We do have sway bars, just not springs.
This our sway bar.
Yeah, rear sway bar.
Our rear sway bar.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I just don't. Yeah, I guess I don't know how much of an upgrade it is for the it obviously must be for the West, but yeah, as far as engine performance and stuff like that, we were really getting into B8S4 when that car was out, so.
In general, forced induction engines are going to have more meat on the bone, therefore the time invested in working on it tends to pay off more. We can make a tune and sell it to you at the cost that it makes or costs us to build, but it may only add 10 horsepower or 12 horsepower. And that's not going to be worth it for you on a value per dollar, and it's not really going to be worth it for us either. So unfortunately, it's a balanced and fun car as it is, but there isn't much you can do.
No, it's a cool car, no question about it. But at that time, we really put our focus on B8 S4. So. Any teasers to drop for TE710 tuning? No teasers, but
we can say it's on the car.
No, yeah. I think they're maybe asking more about like how much power is it making or something like that.
Yeah, we'll leave that for.
No, we're not going to go there. But we are working on it. We do have a kit installed on all of our cars, and we are moving forward with that program aggressively. It's the next phase of development.
Yeah, expect to see some of that, some of those gains, maybe some teasers in the coming weeks, months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just for reference, we will. For stage 3, we will optimize tuning for the stock fuel system, which means we will be controlling torque throughout the torque peak. If you don't know how the FSI fuel pump, the high pressure fuel pump works, it's driven off the camshaft. So its flow rate is directly linked in a very linear fashion to the engine RPM, or the RPM of the camshaft. Obviously at lower RPMs, the camshaft spins slower. So the pump does less pumps, and it has limited flow capacity. So there is a linear rate of fuel flow that relates to crankshaft speed, much like a supercharger. And so the problem is at 2,500 RPM, the engine's just not spinning very fast. So the FSI fuel pump has much more limited flow than say at 5,000 or 6,000 RPM. So that's a big limitation with the FSI fuel system is there's some RPM dependency issues when producing power. So we will utilize the stock fuel system to its maximum ability. As we get into higher RPMs, the fuel pump spins faster, produces more flow, we can produce more power. Eventually we will release a high pressure fuel pump, and there will be a second phase or stage of tunes that augments the high pressure fuel pump. It's similar to what we did with B8 3 T as well. But it's coming, and it's going to be really exciting, and I think we will continue to see times drop, and eventually, hopefully, we'll be seeing 9-second streetcars. Pretty awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
With stock motors.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's a good time to be alive. With Stage 2 AL552 TCU tune, will my car utilize the optimized shift points in roll racing?
Absolutely. If you leave the car in sport drive mode, it will use those optimized shift points per the octane file that you're using.
Yeah, as long as you're in automatic mode.
Yeah.
If you're in manual mode, then no. When will ALC be available for MQB 2.0T? We don't have a date for this, but we are working on it, and it will be available. Definitely, it's a 2022 thing. B9 S4 S5 brake lines. Yes, we are working on those. I believe. I don't know when we'll release them, but we're working on it. It's in the engineering.
Yeah. The main constraint with that setup is that it's a hard line on the caliper that then goes to the knuckle, which then does a soft line from the knuckle to the body. So it's a whole. There's already a unique failure point there, in that if you remove the caliper to change brake pad, you could theoretically loosen that hard line.
Which happened to us.
Yeah, it's just dangerous. So we want to evaluate the opportunity fully rather than just carbon copy what's out there already.
Yeah. So our goal is going to be to do a soft or flexible braided line all the way to the caliper, so that I think Audi, the way they assembled the car, the brake caliper is mounted to the knuckle assembly, and that just gets bolted into the car. And they never account for the fact that the caliper may come on and off on its own, like they've done in every other car. So. On the topic of brakes for the B9, will you be addressing the bleeder screw issue? I've seen a few high temperature failures of this part already.
Yeah. We had a customer this weekend at Laguna Seca, same thing.
That's so weird. I've never seen it on anything.
For those that aren't familiar, the caliper seems to reach at some point its thermal load and begin to expand faster than the bleeder screw can expand with it. So the bleeder screw hole expands to a point where the bleed screw then comes loose.
I mean, I've never seen this
It's-
on a brake caliper.
it's incredible.
But yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah.
Nick's car did it very reliably at Laguna Seca.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what we can do to address it, but we're definitely thinking about it.
There's a fallacy that you can add titanium bleed screws and that fixes the issue, but that there's no proven information to say that's the case. So,
I don't know.
It's certainly something to keep in mind if you're taking these cars to the track. Make sure after every session your bleed screws are tight.
Yeah, I mean it's not great, but it's not. If you just check them after every session, it's it's not gonna fall off,
Right. Yeah, and just manage your braking.
Yeah.
Don't use it like they're perfect.
Yeah. Garrett turbo tuning for EA888.
This is the Power Max turbos.
Yeah, we're currently working on, and I'm driving the car that has it, the EQT Vortex Turbo, which is really nice. I really like the car on this tuning. Just the 91 tune, it freaking rips. I can't imagine what it's going to be like on E85. It's going to be really fast.
Yeah.
And then we're going to be releasing some other EA888 tunes, like the GTI KO4, IS38.
Yeah,
I always say KO4, but IS38.
Yeah.
And then we'll have to see how things go, and if we want to jump into these Garrett turbos as well. The tuning for the EQT may not be that far off, so I think we could probably just get one of these Garrett turbos, slap it in, tweak the tune a little bit.
Yeah, see where
It's probably not far off. Really, really cool. I wish Garrett would have released those turbos, years ago, but they are really nice.
Yeah, and if you guys have an opinion between the EQT or Garrett turbos, let us know. It's certainly good to get your guys' input and info because we're making files for you, not just for us to have fun. So.
No, it's what people want. So we actually
Yeah.
did polling before the Garrett turbos came out,
Yeah.
and it was pretty unanimous that people wanted us to focus on the EQT Vortex, which is what we've done. And I gotta say, I'm impressed with that turbo. I got no issues with it. It's holding up fine. It's reliable. So, any upcoming software fix for the fan control codes some are having on B9 3.0 files? Yes. We know what the problem is. We've identified it. We have fixed it, and we're very careful about releasing updates. This tuning fan issue is not a safety issue or anything. It's not right, but it's not going to damage you or leave you stranded or hurt your engine in any way. So we don't like to rush these updates out. So we are ensuring that the problem is actually fixed. We're testing on multiple cars, multiple box codes. Any other fixes that tweaks and updates that need to be done, we will be adding to that. And we don't really want to release tuning file updates every week. So it's going to be a couple weeks, but hang tight. We know what the problem is. Again, we're sorry. These things are coming up as in the northern hemisphere, temperatures are plummeting and getting colder, and we're getting into more cars, into more vehicles, into more box codes. There's small differences, and all these variables add to the complexity. So we could wait and test and try to test for all these. It would probably take us years, but we get to a point where we've identified every possible issue that we can. We've tested what we believe is a critical mass of variables and vehicles and conditions, and we release it, and then we do these updates as more stuff comes up, which is impossible to predict when. I mean, Audi has ECU updates. If you go to the dealership, chances are they have an ECU update for your car. Not to mention recalls and everything else.
Yeah, and that's not to say we haven't put these things through the paces before we release this to the market. We stress test as much as we physically can in the constraints of our abilities and get it into trusted beta tester hands to see if we can.
No, I mean the things I did in your SQ5
Just unspeakable for Western.
would be traumatizing to some people.
Yeah.
So I can't even talk about it publicly.
Yeah, no, I don't want to.
Probably be arrested.
Yeah.
What do you suspect 100 104 octane figures will be compared to E85 on EA839? It's hard to say, but they're not going to be far off from E85.
the overall octane content of E85 can vary depending on the pump that you're at, but it's anywhere between 108 to 116. So if you're looking at octane rating at its own, that's obviously going to contribute. Usually more octane means more power, but then you have the complexity of ethanol that taxes your fuel system. So when you get 30% more fuel system back on a 104 file, how much does that line up?
That's exactly right. You nailed it. So.
Yeah, we can't know until we do it, and we are working on those files right now for both stock turbo and hybrid turbo, but no info to provide today.
In my experience, I'll just say that 104 and E85 offer similar levels of performance when it comes to power produced. The big compromise is the cost. E85 costs you about $3 a gallon. 104 is probably like $15 a gallon now.
Yeah.
So, and for you guys and outside of the U.S. who don't have freedom, you're going to have to pay a lot more. Unfortunately,
it's unfortunate.
Here in the U.S., we get that freedom for really cheap.
You could bypass the freedom by just buying a lot of corn, but most people don't want to do that.
Yeah, or other kinds of green leafy vegetables with sugar in them.
Very true.
CARB stickers for intakes and tunes. If I purchased an intake previously from you, will I be able to add a CARB sticker? Okay, so we haven't figured out exactly what we're allowed to do. We are working with CARB and debating this internally, and also getting some external advice.
Needless to say, government things are complex and
the regulatory aspect of this makes it more complex. So, as far as like what would we like to do, what do we believe we should be able to do, what would we like to do for you as a customer, our thoughts or belief is that if we have a CARB approved or what's the correct terminology?
CARB exempt.
Yes, if we have a CARB exempt tune and you've bought it in the past, that we should be able to send you a sticker. And that's what we would like to do. And so we are currently going through the process. This would apply to intakes as well. It's possible that we won't be able to do that. I don't, and again, that wouldn't be based on what we want to do or what we think is the right thing to do. It's possible that we won't be able to. So based on the potential for what we may or may not be able to do, we're not saying right now what we will do. But we actually had a meeting about this on Thursday, and I believe there's some deliverables from the team, Gary, that once I receive that, I will get some good professional consulting on what we're allowed to do.
The bulk of it, the good news is a lot of our systems have been approved, and we're just in the process of getting the details of how we deliver this to you guys.
And they are, and in any event, if you're running our CARB approved file, you can know that it's CARB exempt, not CARB approved. I'm sorry, CARB exempt. Then you can and if you already get pulled over or whatever, you can refer to that.
Approved by CARB, exempt.
Yes. But yes, I mean we haven't even released. So on the tuning side, we haven't even released the tunes yet. When we do, you'll be able to flash your car, and we will send you a sticker. So the question is more around intakes. If you've bought an intake in the past, will we be able to send you a sticker? I believe we'll be able to, and that's what we're going to try to do. And we will be happy to send you a sticker if we're allowed to. But we've heard some stuff, and there's been some conflicting information, so we're just verifying this right now. Our intakes do not add to the pollution of your vehicle, and they do not increase the pollution of your vehicle, and they do not disable any of the emission systems in your vehicle. None of our intakes do. So the good news there is, we're getting the EO as a regulatory compliance measure, but in the real world, practically speaking, what comes out of your tailpipe does not change whether you're running our intake or the stock intake. Okay. All right. Well, we got 2 minutes. When you release TTE 710, will your Stage 2 TCU tune be usable, or will you be releasing Stage 3? Yes, our Stage 2 should be usable. We do not know of anything, or are not aware of anything that would, at this time, that would prevent Stage 2 from being used. I believe we'll even make it so that Stage 1 could be used. But
it's more that it just won't have optimized shifts.
No, but it's very likely we will release a Stage 3. We're not there yet. We're still evaluating the whole program, and we just got the car up and running that we're doing this with. So stay tuned. As always, we will do the most that we can with this application and this platform, and you will be blown away by the power and performance of your vehicle. That's always our goal. Any recommendations on mods for an A3 Quattro? Tune? Yes, absolutely tune it. All of our inserts, we have springs. Do we release springs?
I believe they're an end stage dev, but sway bars.
We have sway bars. We're
tune
imminently
intake.
releasing Dynamic Plus springs for that. The tune, I'd say just go full stage one with all of our chassis parts. The car will be transformed. You'll love it. It'll be like faster than as fast as the GTI and handle just as good.
It's incredible.
And it can carry 5 people comfortably. All right, I think that's all the time we have today. Thank you for joining us, and cheers to a great 2021 and to even more exciting products and outcomes next year. So cheers.
Cheers.
All right.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, guys.